Welcome to The Star, The Journey, and The Gift, a Christmas mini-series that will take you on the most extraordinary journey in biblical human history. My name is Christy, your host for this second episode called The Long Obedience, Faith Tested by Time and Distance. As this 5-episode mini-series unfolds, we will trace the steps of the Magi, men stirred by a heavenly sign. One night, they beheld a star unlike any other, bright, unwavering, declaring the birth of a king. With conviction, they prepared for a journey that would alter biblical history. Leaving behind their homes and comforts, the three Magi gathered their treasures and set out across deserts and kingdoms. Pilgrims, missionaries, chosen by God. These three Magi followed the light with their hearts fixed on the promise awaiting them in Bethlehem. The gates of Babylon have closed behind our three pilgrims with the finality of destiny itself. What began as scholarly curiosity on an observatory rooftop has become the most costly journey of faith in human history. Today, we walk every dusty mile with Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar as they discover what it truly means to follow God's light through the wilderness. Feel the burning sand beneath your feet. Taste the dust on your lips. And learn what happens when faith must endure not just for days, but for months. For months they traveled, following a star that sometimes seemed to disappear in the daylight, trusting in what they had seen. Month after month, through scorching deserts and dangerous mountain passes, following a star that sometimes disappeared, trusting in what they had seen. The massive gates of Babylon shrink behind you until they become nothing more than a shimmer on the eastern horizon. Feel your camel's rhythmic swaying beneath you, a rolling, side-to-side motion that makes your stomach lurch until you learn to move with it, rather than fight it. The leather reins in your hands are already growing slick with sweat, and the morning sun, still low in the eastern sky, promises a day of relentless heat ahead. Listen to the symphony of desert travel that will become your constant companion, the soft pad of camel feet against sand, the gentle tinkle of bells hanging from their necks, the rhythmic creak of leather saddles, and the occasional snort or groan from the camels themselves. Beneath it all is something you have never experienced before: the profound silence of vast emptiness, a quiet so complete it seems to press against your eardrums. 1 month out from Babylon, you are beginning to understand the true nature of this journey. Your body has started to adapt to the unfamiliar motion, but your skin tells the story of desert exposure. Feel how the sun has already darkened your face and hands, despite the protective robes. Your lips are constantly dry, cracking at the corners no matter how carefully you ration the warm, leather-flavored water from the goatskin bags. The landscape stretches endlessly before you, rolling dunes of golden sand that shift and change with each wind, creating patterns that mesmerize and disorient. Watch how the sand moves like liquid, flowing stream-like down the dune faces, creating tiny avalanches that whisper, "Shh, shh, as they settle. The sky above is a dome of brilliant blue, so intense it hurts to look at it directly, unmarked by clouds, promising no relief from the sun's assault. Caspar rides slightly ahead, his young face already weathered by desert sun despite their careful head coverings. His bronze astrolabe hangs from his saddle, clinking softly with each step, but increasingly he relies not on instruments, but on the star itself, when it's visible. The star moved again last night, he calls back to his companions, his voice carrying across the desert silence with startling clarity. In this vast emptiness, even whispers seem to travel for miles. It maintains its westward course, but some days I wonder if we are following a mirage of our own desperate hopes. By the second month, the desert has revealed its true character, and it is merciless. Feel the sun beating down on your head like a blacksmith's hammer, even through the layers of cloth wrapped around your skull. The heat radiates up from the sand beneath you, creating a furnace effect that bakes you from above and below simultaneously. The landscape has become a study in extremes, blinding white sand under the noon sun that forces you to squint until your eyes water. Then, sudden drops in temperature as evening approaches that leave you shivering and reaching for woolen cloaks. The wind, when it comes, brings no relief. Only more sand that stings exposed skin and finds its way into every fold of clothing, every crease of your body. Listen to how the desert sounds change throughout the day. In the pre-dawn darkness, there is almost supernatural quiet, broken only by the distant howl of jackals and the soft shuffle of your camel's shifting position. As the sun rises, the sand begins to whisper and hiss as it heats and expands. By midday, the silence becomes oppressive, broken only by the buzz of occasional flies and the rhythmic sounds of your caravan. Your water now tastes permanently of leather and has a slightly bitter aftertaste that speaks of the tanning processes used to make the bags. The dates you eat are becoming hard as stones, requiring precious saliva to soften them, enough to chew. The flatbread, once soft and fragrant, now cracks like pottery when you try to break it. How much further? Caspar asked one evening as they make camp, his young voice betraying real doubts now. The star blazes overhead, but somehow it seems no closer than it did 2 months ago. Around your small campfire, fueled by dried camel dung that burns with a surprisingly clean flame, the silence of the desert presses in like a living thing. Balthazar, unpacking the precious gifts with the same reverence he showed in Babylon, pauses in his work. The wooden boxes creak as he opens them, and the contents, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, seem to glow in the firelight. Distance is not measured in miles on a journey like this, my young friend. It is measured in faith, and faith is tested by time. 3 months into their journey, you begin to understand what the prophet meant when he wrote about those who wait on the Lord. This is not passive waiting. This is active endurance, choosing each morning to continue when every rational thought screams for retreat. The desert silence has become a teacher. In Babylon, You were accustomed to the constant clatter of cart wheels on stone, the calls of merchants, the chatter of students, the ring of hammers on metal. Here, the quiet is so profound that you can hear your own heartbeat, your own breathing, the whisper of wind through your robes. But it's not complete silence. Listen carefully, and you will hear the desert's subtle symphony, the almost inaudible rustle of sand grains moving in the breeze, the distant cry of a hawk circling high above, the soft sigh of wind through sparse desert vegetation. At night, the sounds change. The crack of cooling rocks, the scurry of small desert creatures, and always the gentle tinkle of camel bells as the animals shift in their sleep. The star's mysterious behavior has become a daily test of faith. During the blazing heat of midday, when the sun turns sky white and makes the air shimmer like water, their celestial guide disappears completely. The silence during these hours feels different, expectant, waiting, as if the very desert holds its breath until evening when their guide reappears. "We have seen his star," Melchior repeats like a mantra when doubt threatens to overwhelm faith. His voice in the desert quiet carries a weight it never had in Babylon's busy streets. These words, their own declaration of what they witnessed that first night on the observatory rooftop, have become not just a memory but a lifeline, spoken into the vast silence that seems to swallow all human pretension. Decades later, when Matthew records their story in his gospel, he will capture this very confession that sustained them through months of desert testing. It's the 4th month when the first real crisis hits. Your water is running dangerously low. You can hear the difference in the slosh of the goatskin bags, a hollow sound that speaks of approaching disaster. The wind carries news from Bedouin scouts. Bandits were spotted near the last oasis, the very oasis you were counting on to replenish your supplies. Watch Melchior as he stares at the empty daylight sky, his faith wavering for the first time since leaving Babylon. In the desert's profound quiet, even whispered doubts seem to echo across the dunes. The scholar who quoted prophecies with such certainty now struggles with doubt that gnaws at his spirit. "What if we've been fools?" he whispers, his voice barely audible above the constant whisper of wind-blown sand. "Following a star like children chasing fireflies? What if we have thrown away everything we had for a delusion born of wishful thinking and scholarly pride?" The words hang in the desert air like a curse. In the oppressive silence that follows, you can hear the thud of your own heartbeat, the rasp of dry breathing, the nervous shuffle of camel feet. For the first time since leaving Babylon, retreat seems not just possible, but logical. But then, as if in answer to their crisis of faith, you hear something that makes your heart leap. A distant tinkle of camel bells approaching from the south. A Bedouin trader appears on the horizon, his small caravan creating a dust cloud that whispers across the sand as he travels along one of the intersecting trade routes that crisscross the desert. Providence smiles upon you the trader says in broken Aramaic, his weathered face showing the wisdom of one who has survived where others perished. You travel far from home, yes? What drives men to cross the great desert with such determination? The 5th and 6th months bring you into the rhythm of true desert travel. You have learned to read the desert's moods by its sounds and silences. The pre-dawn hours are announced by a subtle change in the quality of silence. It becomes expectant, waiting. Then comes the first twitter of desert birds, followed by the gradual rustle of the camp awakening. The morning hours bring steady progress across terrain that changes gradually. Listen to how the sounds change with the landscape. The soft whisper of sand giving way to the crunch of gravel, then the clatter of loose stones as you navigate rocky outcroppings. The camel's bells create different tones depending on the ground beneath. A soft tinkle on sand, a sharper ring on stone. You encounter other travelers now, merchants carrying silk from China, spice traders from India. Their caravans announce themselves long before you see them. The jingle of many bells, the shouts of drivers, the bray of donkeys, the rumble of cartwheels. After months of near silence, these sounds of human commerce seem almost overwhelming. Around evening campfires, you share meals with fellow travelers. Listen to the crackle of burning dung and sparse desert wood, the sizzle of flatbread on hot stones, the bubble of tea brewing in metal pots. The conversations flow in multiple languages: Arabic, Persian, Aramaic, Greek, creating a musical backdrop to the meal. A Syrian merchant shakes his head as Melchior explains their mission, his voice carrying the skepticism of practical commerce. You travel 1,000 miles to worship a baby? He asks, the question hanging in the night air above the pop and hiss of the fire. As the 6th month passes, Balthazar articulates a profound connection during one particularly difficult day when sandstorms have forced them to take shelter. The wind howls around them like a living thing, and sand pelts their protective coverings with the sound of rain on leaves. Every step we take toward Bethlehem, he observes, his voice barely audible above the storm's roar, is a step the Christ child would take one day toward Calvary. Our journey of worship parallels his journey of sacrifice. When the storm passes, the silence that follows seems different, deeper, more meaningful. The truth of his observation settles over them like the sudden quiet after the wind dies. The 7th, 8th, and 9th months blurred together in a haze of heat, dust, and the endless rhythm of camel bells. This is the long middle of their journey, past the point of return, but still far from their destination. The sounds of travel have become so familiar, they are like breathing. Pad, pad, pad of feet. Tinkle, tinkle of bells. Creak of leather, whisper of wind. But listen carefully during these months, and you will hear something new in their voices, a deeper resonance, a weight that wasn't there before. The desert has stripped away everything non-essential, and what remains in their speech is pure purpose, tested faith, refined commitment. The prophet Habakkuk's words become their lifeline, spoken into the vast silence. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Their voices, when they quote these words, seem to echo across the emptiness, as if the desert itself is listening and approving. The 10th month brings them into contact with different cultures, and you can hear the change in the very air around you. The pure silence of the deep desert gives way to more frequent sounds of human habitation. The distant bleat of goats, the crow of roosters at dawn, the call to prayer from small oasis towns. In these settlements, the sounds are a mixture of familiar and foreign. You hear the splash of water being drawn from wells, a sound that makes your heart leap after months of ration drops. There's the sizzle of meat cooking over fires, the chatter of children playing, the clip-clop of donkeys on stone streets. The languages change too. The Persian and Arabic you have grown accustomed to gives way to more Aramaic, the trade language of this region. Listen to how the Magi's voices adapt, picking up new inflections, new words, gradually preparing for what lies ahead. After nearly a year of desert travel, the very quality of sound changes as you approach civilization. The profound silence of the deep desert gives way to a constant background hum of human activity. You can hear it long before you see it, the rumble of cartwheels, the call of merchants, the lowing of cattle, the complex symphony of settled life. Small villages appear with increasing frequency, and each one brings new sounds to your ears. The thunk of axes splitting wood, the scrape of tools on stone, the splash of laundry being washed in streams. Children's voices ring out in play, a sound that almost seems foreign after months of adult conversation around desert campfires. "We're approaching the borders of Judea," Melchior announces one evening, his voice carrying new excitement and apprehension. The very air seems different here. You can smell cultivation, cooking fires, the complex sense of human settlement mixing with the clean desert air you have grown accustomed to. Nearly 12 months after leaving Babylon, Jerusalem appears on the horizon, and the sight takes your breath away. But it's not just what you see, it's what you hear. The great city hums with activity even at a distance. There is a constant murmur of thousands of voices, the clatter of commerce, the ring of hammers on metal, the creak of cartwheels on stone. As you approach the city gates, the sounds become overwhelming after months of desert quiet. Roman soldiers' armor clinks as they move. Their voices bark orders in Latin. Jewish officials call out in Aramaic, checking credentials and examining goods. The very stones seem to echo with the footsteps of pilgrims, merchants, and residents going about their daily business. But something is wrong. Listen carefully to the quality of these sounds. There is an undertone of tension, of fear, of whispered conversations that stop when strangers approach. This is not the joyful celebration they expected to find at the birth of the Messiah. The star, which has faithfully guided them across more than 1,000 miles of wilderness, seems to hesitate as they approach the city. Its light appears dimmed, as if even heaven is uncertain about what awaits them within those golden walls. Step away from the dusty caravan routes and Jerusalem's golden walls for just a moment, dear friend, and join me in a place that exists beyond time, a sacred chamber where the voices of endurance and fulfillment gather around a simple wooden table. Here, 5 men from across the centuries meet to discuss what it truly means to wait on the Lord, to endure hardship for divine purpose, and to run the race set before us. Pull up your stool and take your place at this divine round table, right here, between the gospel writers who witnessed the fulfillment of everything the prophets foretold. Feel your sandaled feet across the threshold into a room that breathes with the weight of centuries. The walls are built of the same honey-colored limestone that graces Jerusalem's most sacred buildings. Their surfaces worn smooth by countless hands and softened by the golden glow of oil lamps mounted in bronze sconces. Overhead, cedar beams stretch across the ceiling, their rich grain darkened by years of lamp smoke and the passage of time. The air is thick with the familiar scent of burning olive oil. But there's something more. The distinctive aroma of well-used parchment, the earthy smell of freshly ground ink, and the faint fragrance of frankincense that seems to linger in every sacred space. Through the single window, you can hear the distant sounds of an ancient city, the rhythmic thud of grain being ground, the bleat of goats in nearby courtyards, the call of merchants in the marketplace, and the soft murmur of evening prayers drifting from temple precincts. In the center of this timeless chamber sits a table of dark olive wood, its surface bearing the scars and stains of countless scholarly endeavors. The grain tells stories, rings marking years of patient growth, knots speaking of storms weathered, ink stains recording moments when divine inspiration flowed faster than human hands could capture it. Your fingers naturally trace these marks as you take your place at the table, feeling the weight of history in every groove and scratch. 6 wooden stools now surround the table. One for you, dear listener, positioned right between Matthew and John, where you can see every face, hear every word, and feel the electricity of 2 testaments meeting in sacred conversation. Upon the table rest bronze oil lamps whose flames dance steadily, casting a warm circle of light that draws these remarkable men together across the centuries. Habakkuk sits directly across from you, and when his eyes meet yours, you see the fire of a prophet who has wrestled with God and emerged transformed. His weathered hands, marked by years of writing in difficult circumstances, rest on a scroll that bears the weight of divine complaint and divine answer. His beard, streaked with premature gray from the burden of prophetic vision, frames a face that has seen both the depths of despair and the heights of faith. His simple brown robes speak of a man who has learned that true strength comes not from comfort, but from waiting on the Lord. To your right sits Matthew, close enough that you can smell the fresh ink on his parchment and hear the soft scratch of his reed stylus. His tax collector's precision is evident in his careful posture and methodical arrangement of his writing materials. But his eyes hold the wonder of one whose life was completely transformed by following Jesus. His Greek education shows in his cultured appearance, yet his Jewish heart beats with love for the Messiah who called him from a tax booth to discipleship. To your left, John radiates the quiet intensity of the beloved disciple, the one who leaned on Jesus' breast at the Last Supper. His weathered fisherman's hands now hold a stylus with the same skill they once used to mend nets. And his eyes carry the depth of one who has seen the Word made flesh. When he looks at you, you feel the warmth of someone who understands what it means to follow Christ through both triumph and suffering. Isaiah sits between Habakkuk and the Scribe of Hebrews, his prophet's mantle draped around shoulders that have carried the weight of divine revelation for decades. His scroll, longer and more elaborate than the others, bears the words of comfort and judgment that have sustained God's people through centuries of exile and return. When he speaks, his voice carries the authority of one who has seen the Lord high and lifted up, and his eyes hold the fire of prophetic passion that burns undimmed by years. The Scribe of Hebrews. Tradition says it might be Paul or Barnabas or Apollos, but here he appears as the Spirit-inspired scribe whose identity matters less than his message, sits with the bearing of one who has witnessed the superiority of Christ over all earthly systems. His Greek is flawless, his theology precise, but his heart beats with pastoral concern for believers facing persecution and the temptation to give up. The lamp flames flicker as Habakkuk speaks first, his voice carrying the weight of one who has questioned God and received an answer that shook the foundations of his faith. My friends, and you, dear listener, he nods towards you with the warmth of a fellow traveler. I have learned something about waiting that I must share. When I cried out to the Lord about injustice and received his answer about the coming Babylonian invasion, I thought my faith would crumble. But then he spoke words that changed everything. He unrolls his scroll with reverent hands, the parchment crackling softly in the lamplight. The Hebrew letters seem to glow as he reads. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Matthew looks up from his writing, his stylus poised above his parchment. Habakkuk, honored prophet, when I interviewed those who witnessed the Magi's journey, I thought of your words constantly. They waited months, nearly a year, following a star that sometimes disappeared. How does one maintain faith when God's promises seem delayed? You lean forward, feeling the smooth wood at the table beneath your palms, and find yourself speaking. But isn't that exactly what the Magi experienced? They had to trust in what they had seen during the times when they couldn't see their guide. Isaiah's eyes light up as he turns to you. Exactly, my friend. You understand the heart of endurance. I wrote, "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." His weathered fingers trace each Hebrew letter as he continues. The Magi discovered what every faithful soul must learn, that waiting on the Lord is not passive resignation, but active trust, not sitting still, but moving forward in faith, even when the path is unclear. John's voice joins the conversation, rich with the memory of walking with Jesus. I watched our Lord demonstrate this very principle during his journey to Calvary, carrying his cross. He could have called 12 legions of angels. Instead, he endured because he saw the joy set before him, our salvation. He turns to you with the intensity of an eyewitness. Friend, you must understand, the Magi's physical journey through the desert parallels every believer's spiritual journey. We all face times when we must follow Christ through wilderness places, when his guidance seems unclear, when endurance is the only option. The scribe nods emphatically, his stylus moving across his parchment as he captures the moment. This is precisely why I wrote, "Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame." He looks directly at you. The Magi ran their race for months, enduring desert hardships for the joy of worshiping the newborn King. Christ ran his race for 33 years, enduring earthly limitations and ultimately the cross for the joy of our redemption. The conversation pauses, and you find yourself asking what's been on your heart. But what about when the waiting becomes almost unbearable? When faith feels more like foolishness? The Magi had moments of doubt. What sustained them? Habakkuk's weathered face shows understanding born of personal struggle. My friend, I asked God the same question when I saw the wicked prospering and the righteous suffering. His answer taught me that faith is not the absence of questions, but the choice to trust despite them. Isaiah adds, his prophet's mantle rustling as he leans forward. The Magi had seen the star. They had encountered divine revelation. When doubt came, they returned to that foundational experience. We have seen his star. That became their confession of faith. Matthew's stylus pauses over his parchment as he looks at you. That's exactly what I recorded. Their persistent confession. We have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. Even when they couldn't see it during daylight, they held on to what they had witnessed. The scribe spreads his parchment wider, revealing the careful Greek script that flows like music across the page. This is why I emphasized the great cloud of witnesses, all those who have run the race of faith before us. The Magi joined that cloud, demonstrating that endurance is possible when we fix our eyes on Jesus. You feel the weight of this truth settling in your heart. So their journey wasn't just about finding a baby. It was about proving that faith can endure any hardship when the goal is worthy. John's eyes brighten with the joy of shared understanding. Now you're seeing the deeper truth. There are months of desert travel. There are moments of doubt. Their renewed commitment each morning. All of it prefigured the Christian life. We follow a Savior we cannot always see, trusting in promises that sometimes seem delayed. Habakkuk nods approvingly. And just as my prophecy found its fulfillment in God's perfect timing, their star led them to the perfect moment, the birth of the one who would fulfill every promise God ever made. Isaiah unfurls more of his scroll, the parchment crackling with age and reverence. His voice rises with prophetic passion as he reads, "Arise, Shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising." He looks around the table, his eyes finally settling on you. Friend, when I wrote these words, I saw this very moment, not just the Magi's journey, but you, here, understanding what it means for the nations to come to his light. Tell me, what do you see in their story? You feel the frankincense-scented air fill your lungs as you consider this question. Isaiah, I see that God's plan was always bigger than Israel alone. The Magi represent all of us who weren't born into the covenant, but have been called by his light. Matthew's stylus moves rapidly across his parchment. That's beautiful. The Magi were the first Gentiles to worship Christ, proving from his birth that salvation was for all nations. The scribe adds, and their endurance through hardship shows that coming to Christ isn't always easy. It requires the same kind of faith that endures as seeing him who is invisible. John turns towards you with the pastoral heart of one who has shepherded believers through persecution. But practically, friend, how do we apply this to our daily walk? How do we endure when our own star seems to disappear? You look around the table at these giants of faith. From listening to all of you, I think it's about remembering what we've already seen of God's faithfulness, holding on to his promises even when circumstances suggest otherwise, and keeping our eyes fixed on the ultimate goal, knowing and worshiping Christ. Habakkuk's voice carries the authority of tested faith. Yes, and remembering that God's timing is perfect, even when it's not our timing. The Magi's year-long journey brought them to Bethlehem at exactly the right moment. Isaiah nods, and trusting that every step of difficulty is preparing us for greater revelation. Their desert hardships stripped away everything non-essential, preparing their hearts for the wonder of worshiping the Christ child. The conversation flows naturally as these men from different eras find common ground in God's unchanging character. The scribe speaks with scholarly precision. What strikes me is how the Magi's experience validates everything we teach about faith. They walked by faith, not by sight, long before Paul wrote these words. Matthew looks up from his careful Greek script, and they just proved that true worship requires sacrifice. They didn't just bring gifts, they became living sacrifices, leaving everything to follow God's call. You find yourself asking, but would your writings have been different if you had this conversation before you wrote them? John's weathered fisherman's hands pause in their writing. I think we would have emphasized even more strongly how the Old Testament prophecies found their perfect fulfillment in Christ. The Magi's story is really the story of all Scripture. Promises made, endurance required, fulfillment achieved. As the conversation deepens, you notice the room itself seems to respond to their words. The lamplight grows brighter, casting away every shadow. The scent of frankincense grows stronger, as if their discussion has sanctified the very air. The parchments and scrolls seem to glow with inner light, the words written upon them alive with divine purpose. Outside, the sounds of the ancient city fade, replaced by something that might be the distant sound of angelic choirs or the whisper of the Spirit moving through the centuries. connecting promise to fulfillment, prophecy to completion. Isaiah turns to you with prophetic intensity. Now you must answer honestly, friend. When your own journey grows difficult, when God's guidance seems unclear, when endurance is all you have left, will you remember what you have learned here? You feel the weight of their attention, these men who shaped salvation history. Isaiah, Habakkuk, Matthew, John, and you, Scribe, who wrote Hebrews. Sitting here with you, I realize that endurance isn't just about surviving difficulty. It's about trusting that God is working even when I can't see it, moving even when I can't feel it, faithful even when I can't understand it. The scribe's eyes fill with pastoral warmth. That's the heart of faith, friend. The Magi endured because they had seen something that changed everything. We endure because we have seen someone who changes everything. Habakkuk leans forward, his prophet's eyes intense. But endurance requires daily choice, friend. The Magi had to choose each morning to continue when turning back seemed logical. What will help you make that choice? You look around the table at these faithful witnesses, remembering conversations like this one, knowing that others have walked this path before me, understanding that my temporary struggles are preparing me for eternal glory. Matthew nods approvingly, and remembering that the same God who guided the Magi's star is guiding your steps. His faithfulness doesn't depend on your ability to see it. John adds with the warmth of pastoral care, and knowing that every step of endurance is a step toward greater intimacy with Christ. The Magi's hardships prepared them to truly appreciate the wonder of worshiping the newborn King. As the conversation draws toward its close, the scribe speaks with the authority of divine inspiration. Friend, you must understand that the Magi's story is really your story. We all have a race to run, a course to complete, a king to worship. The question is whether we will endure to the end. Isaiah's voice carries prophetic fire. And remember that your endurance encourages others, just as the Magi's story has inspired faith for centuries. Your faithful endurance in difficulty points others toward the light. You feel tears stinging your eyes as the truth settles in your heart. So, when I am tempted to give up, when the journey seems too long, when God's promises seem delayed, I can remember that I am part of a great cloud of witnesses who have all learned that He is faithful. Habakkuk's weathered hand reaches across the table to touch yours. Exactly, my friend. And remember my words. The just shall live by faith, not by sight, not by feeling, not by understanding, but by faith in the God who keeps His promises. The lamp flames grow brighter as Matthew turns to you with the heart of an evangelist. Now you must go and be an encourager yourself. The Magi's story of endurance needs to be told to others who are struggling in their own wilderness places. John nods with apostolic authority. Every time you share this story, every time you encourage someone to keep following Christ through difficulty, you are continuing the Magi's mission of pointing others to the King. You feel the weight of this calling. So I'm not just learning about endurance. I am being equipped to help others endure. The scribe smiles with pastoral satisfaction. Now you understand why I wrote about the great cloud of witnesses. We are all connected in this race of faith, encouraging each other toward the finish line. The bronze lamps continue to burn as you prepare to leave this sacred space. Their flames are a reminder that the light of endurance still shines, still calls, still sustains all who run the race of faith with perseverance. Isaiah carefully rolls up his prophetic scroll, the parchment whispering softly as it returns to its protective case. Remember, friend, he says as his eyes meet yours one final time, the same God who gave strength to the Magi for their desert journey gives strength to you for whatever wilderness you are crossing. Habakkuk gathers his scroll with the reverence of one who has learned to trust God's timing completely. And when the waiting becomes difficult, he adds, his voice carrying the authority of tested faith, remember that what tarries will surely come. God's promises are never late. They arrive at the perfect moment. Matthew looks up from his completed writing, his Greek letters gleaming in the lamplight. Your story is now part of the gospel story, friend. Every time you choose endurance over giving up, you are writing another chapter of God's faithfulness. John's weathered hands rest on his parchment as he speaks with the warmth of the beloved disciple. And remember that you are not running this race alone. The same Spirit who guided the Magi's star lives within you, providing strength for every step of the journey. The scribe rises from the table, his scroll complete with words that will encourage believers for generations. Go now with the confidence that you are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. The Magi, the prophets, the apostles, and countless others who have proven that endurance leads to glory. As you stand to leave this timeless chamber, you carry with you more than knowledge. You carry the living testimony of 5 men who understood that God's greatest works often require our greatest endurance. The conversation between 2 testaments reminds you that the same God who spoke through Habakkuk and Isaiah also guided Matthew's and John's pens and inspired the author of Hebrews. This same God sustained the Magi through months of desert travel and orchestrated this very conversation to strengthen your heart for whatever lies ahead. The lamp flames flicker one final time as you move toward the threshold, but their light continues to burn in your heart. You understand now that the Magi's year-long journey was not just about reaching Bethlehem. It was about proving that faith can endure any hardship when the goal is worthy, that God's promises are worth waiting for, and that those who wait on the Lord will indeed renew their strength. As you cross the threshold of this sacred room, the voices of these faithful witnesses echo in your heart. Habakkuk, though it tarries, wait for it. It will surely come. Isaiah, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Matthew, we have seen his star and have come to worship him. John, he endured the cross for the joy set before him. The scribe who wrote Hebrews, let us run with endurance the race set before us. The lamp burns on, its light a reminder that endurance is not just surviving difficulty, but thriving through it. Not just waiting passively, but actively trusting. Not just hoping for better days, but finding strength for today in the promises of God. You are part of this story now, part of the great cloud of witnesses who prove that faith can endure, that God's guidance is sure even when unclear, and that those who follow His light will never be disappointed, even when the journey takes longer than expected. The star still shines. The race continues. The finish line awaits. And you are equipped now to run with endurance, sustained by the same faith that carried 3 wise men across 1,000 miles of desert to worship the King of Kings. Return with me now to those dusty caravan routes where 3 pilgrims approached the golden walls of Jerusalem, their faith tested by time and distance, but proven genuine by divine provision. But carry with you the understanding that their story of endurance is your story too, and that the same God who sustained them through months of uncertainty will sustain you through whatever wilderness you are crossing. The conversation between 2 testaments continues in your heart. The lamp burns on. The race of faith goes on. And you are part of it all. The gates of Jerusalem loom before you, and the sounds here are different from anything you have experienced. There's the clang of metal on stone as guards check weapons, the rustle of parchments being examined, the murmur of multiple languages as travelers from across the empire seek entry. We seek the King of the Jews, Balthazar explains to a temple official, his voice carrying the authority of one who has traveled far for a sacred purpose. We have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him. Listen to the sudden hush that falls over the nearby crowd at these words. Then the whisper of urgent conversations, the shuffle of feet as people move away, the nervous cough of officials who suddenly find themselves dealing with dangerous questions. The streets of Jerusalem buzz with activity, but there's an undercurrent of tension you can hear in every conversation. Merchants in the marketplace whisper among themselves when they hear the Magi's questions, their voices carrying fear rather than joy. Word of arrival spreads quickly through the city's networks, and within hours you hear the clip-clop of official horses approaching your inn. The sound echoes off the narrow stone walls of Jerusalem's streets, growing louder and more ominous with each step. A messenger arrives with an official summons, his voice carrying the formal tones of royal protocol, but with an underlying threat that makes the very air seem to vibrate with danger. His Majesty King Herod requests an audience with the distinguished visitors from the east, he announces, the words ringing against the stone courtyard of the inn. You will present yourselves at the palace tomorrow at the 3rd hour. Listen to the silence that follows this announcement. Not the peaceful quiet of the desert, but the tense hush of people holding their breath. Even the usual sounds of the inn, the clatter of dishes, the murmur of conversation, the scrape of sandals on stone, seem muted by the weight of this royal summons. That night, as they prepare for what may be the most dangerous encounter of their entire journey, the 3 Magi gather on the inn's rooftop. The sounds of Jerusalem at night surround you. The distant bark of dogs, the call of night watchmen making their rounds, the creak of shutters closing against the cool air. But above it all, you can hear something else, the whisper of worried conversations from other rooftops, the city's anxiety made audible in the night air. The star blazes overhead, but its light seems different here. Not the welcoming guide it was in the desert, but a beacon that has led them into unexpected peril. Even the quality of its light seems to pulse with urgency, as if heaven itself is concerned about what tomorrow will bring. "We came seeking a king," Melchior says quietly, his voice barely audible above the city's nighttime sounds. "But we may have found a trap instead." Feel the cool night breeze that carries the scents of the city, cooking fires, incense from the temple, the press of humanity living in close quarters. But there's something else in the air, something you could almost taste. Fear. It hangs over Jerusalem like a fog, muffling even the normal sounds of urban life. Caspar's young face shows the strain of their long journey and the new fears that Jerusalem has awakened. When he speaks, his voice carries a tremor that has nothing to do with the cool night air. What if we made a terrible mistake? What if the star led us here not to worship, but to warn us of danger? Listen to how different his voice sounds now compared to that first night on Babylon's rooftop. The desert has deepened it, given it weight and authority, but Jerusalem has added something new. Uncertainty tinged with genuine fear. Balthazar, the eldest and wisest, looks up at the star with eyes that have seen much in his long life. When he speaks, his voice cuts through the night sounds with the authority of prophetic insight. The star has not failed us yet, my brothers, but I fear we are about to discover that finding the King of Kings may be more dangerous than we ever imagined. As the night deepens around them, the sounds of Jerusalem gradually quiet to a low murmur. The city never truly sleeps, but it settles into the rhythm of night watches and whispered conversations. From the palace district comes the occasional clink of armor as guards change shifts, a sound that reminds them constantly of the power they will face tomorrow. The star pulses overhead, patient but insistent, as if urging them forward into whatever awaits them in Herod's palace. Its light catches the gold and limestone of the temple in the distance, making the holy city gleam like a jewel. But even this beauty cannot dispel the sense of foreboding that hangs in the air like incense. Tomorrow their faith will face its greatest test yet, not in the empty desert where only God could see their struggles, but in the halls of power where kings decide the fate of those who dare to speak of rival kingdoms. The silence of the desert, which taught them to hear God's voice, will give way to the dangerous politics of earthly thrones. Listen to the cities breathing around you, the sigh of wind through narrow streets, the distant splash of fountains in palace courtyards, the rustle of palm fronds in temple gardens. These are the sounds that will frame tomorrow's encounter, when 3 desert pilgrims will stand before a king who has never learned that there are some crowns no earthly power can claim. The star continues to shine, its light a reminder that their journey is far from over. They have followed heaven's guidance across 1,000 miles of wilderness, through months of testing and hardship, through doubt and renewal. Tomorrow, they will discover whether the same guidance will protect them in the most dangerous place of all, the throne room of a king who fears the very baby they have come to worship. Thank you for joining me tonight as we walked every dusty mile with three pilgrims whose faith was tested by time, distance, and the profound silence of the desert. I pray that you carry with you their example of endurance when the journey grows long, their trust when God's guidance seems unclear, and their commitment to continue following the light, even when it leads through dangerous places. If this journey of endurance has strengthened your heart, take a moment to share it with someone who might need encouragement for their own long road of faith. And be sure to join me next time as we continue walking alongside Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar from the desert's honest silence into the dangerous halls of earthly power, where they will discover that sometimes the greatest threats to faith come not from the wilderness, but from the very places where we expect to find God's blessing. Until next time, may you find peace in the quiet, trust in God's call, and rest in His unchanging love. This is In the Field Audio Bible, where we listen to the Bible one chapter at a time. Coming up next on The Star, the Journey, and the Gift. Walk alongside Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar through the bronze gates of Herod's palace, where seekers of truth encounter the master of deception. We will feel our hearts pound as innocent questions become deadly traps. Sense the cold marble beneath our feet in corridors where paranoia rules, and witness the chilling moment when earthly power feels threatened by a toddler in Bethlehem. As we experience the Magi's growing horror at realizing they have walked into a web of lies and murder, we are reminded that following God's call sometimes leads us through the valley of the shadow of death.